I will never forget the look on Marcus's face when he pulled up to my farm and found absolutely nothing there. Not a single chair, not a dish, not even a curtain on the windows. Just empty rooms and the echo of his own shocked voice bouncing off the walls. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. How a woman who spent 40 years working herself to the bone ended up teaching her own son the hardest lesson of his life. My name is Lorraine Mitchell, and I am 62 years old. For 4 decades, I worked as a nurse at County General Hospital in Detroit. Night shifts, double shifts, holidays, weekends. I missed Marcus's basketball games. I missed school plays. I worked through my mother's funeral and my father's last birthday. I did it all so my son could have a better life than I had. When Marcus graduated from college, I cried tears of joy. When he got married to Destiny, I welcomed her with open arms. I thought I had done everything right. I thought I had raised a good man who understood sacrifice and family. I was wrong. Last year, after my knees started giving out and my back couldn't handle another 12-hour shift, I finally retired. I had saved money for years. Every penny I could spare went into my retirement fund. I lived in a small apartment, drove an old car, and ate leftovers for days. But I had a dream, a simple, beautiful dream. I wanted peace. I wanted quiet. I wanted to wake up to the sound of birds instead of sirens. I wanted to grow tomatoes and read books on a porch, and finally rest. So I bought a farm. Not a big fancy place, but 30 acres of beautiful land 2 hours outside the city in rural Michigan. It had a farmhouse with 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and windows that let in the morning sun. It had a barn that I planned to fix up. It had fields where I could plant a garden. It had everything I had dreamed about for 40 years. I spent 6 months fixing it up. I painted every room myself. I chose furniture carefully, piece by piece. I hung up pictures of my family. I planted roses by the front steps, just like my grandmother used to have. I bought chickens and named every single one. I was happy, truly happy for the first time in years. Marcus visited once when I first moved in. He walked through the house with his hands in his pockets and said it was nice. Destiny didn't come. She said she was allergic to the country. I didn't mind. I understood city people had their preferences. For 3 months, I lived my dream. I woke up with the sunrise. I tended my garden. I sat on the porch with my coffee and watched the world wake up. I went to the little church down the road and made friends with the neighbors. Miss Evelyn from the farm next door brought me fresh eggs. Pastor James invited me to join the church choir. I felt like I had finally found home. Then Marcus called. It was a Tuesday morning in late June. I was outside feeding my chickens when my phone rang. "Hey, baby," I said, happy to hear from him. "How are you?" "Mom, I need to talk to you about something," Marcus said. His voice had that tone, that business tone he used at work, not the warm voice of my son. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Listen, Destiny's family is having some issues with their housing situation. Her mom, her 2 sisters, her brother, his wife, and their 3 kids. They need a place to stay for a while." My heart started beating faster. I didn't like where this was going. "Oh, that's tough," I said carefully. "I hope they find something soon." "Well, that's what I'm calling about. We figured they could stay at your place. You've got all that space out there." I stopped walking. My chickens scattered around my feet. "Marcus, baby, this is my home. I don't think—" "Mom, it's just for a little while. A few months tops. They really need help." "Honey, I understand that, but I moved out here for peace and quiet. I can't have 9 extra people here. Where would they even sleep?" There was silence on the other end. Then Marcus said something that made my blood run cold. "Mom, Destiny and I are coming too. We'll take the master bedroom. You can take the guest room. Her family can spread out in the other rooms and the living areas. It'll be like a big family gathering." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own son was telling me to give up my bedroom in my own house. "Marcus, this is my house. I bought it with my retirement money. I can't just—" "Mom, you're being selfish." His voice got loud. "Do you know how hard Destiny's family has it? They need help, and you're sitting out there in all that space by yourself. What kind of Christian woman refuses to help family?" That hurt. That really hurt. After everything I sacrificed for him, he was calling me selfish. "Marcus, I'm not refusing to help, but having 11 people move into my house is not reasonable. Maybe I could help them find—" "Forget it, Mom. I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, we're coming this Friday. That's 3 days from now. Have the master bedroom ready for me and Destiny. Her family will figure out the rest, and if you don't like it, you can go back to your old apartment in the city. I'm sure they haven't rented it out yet." My mouth fell open. My own son was threatening to kick me out of my own home. "Marcus Mitchell, you listen to me. No, you listen to me. I'm tired of you acting like you're better than everyone else just because you bought some farm in the middle of nowhere. Family helps family. That's what you always taught me, remember? Or does that only apply when you're the one getting help?" Tears filled my eyes, not from sadness, from rage, pure hot rage that I hadn't felt in decades. "Fine," I said quietly. "What?" "I said fine. Come on Friday." "Oh." Marcus sounded surprised. "Okay, good. That's good, Mom. You're doing the right thing. We'll be there around noon." "I'll be waiting," I said, and hung up. I stood there in my yard, surrounded by my chickens, shaking with anger. 40 years. 40 years of sacrifice, and this was how my son repaid me. By demanding I give up my peace, my space, my dream. By calling me selfish. By threatening to kick me out of my own home. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. I walked into my house and sat down at my kitchen table. I looked around at everything I had built, every piece of furniture I had chosen, every picture on the wall, every little touch that made this place mine. And then I made a decision. I picked up my phone and called my neighbor, Miss Evelyn. "Evelyn, honey, it's Lorraine. I need your help with something. Can you come over?" 20 minutes later, Evelyn was sitting at my table with a cup of tea, listening to everything that had happened. "That boy has lost his mind," she said, shaking her head, "talking to his own mother like that." "I need to teach him a lesson," I said, "a lesson he'll never forget." Evelyn looked at me with sharp eyes. She was 75 years old and had seen everything life could throw at a person. What are you thinking, Lorraine? I smiled, not a happy smile, a smile that came from somewhere deep and fierce inside me. I'm thinking that Marcus is going to learn what it really means to take something that doesn't belong to you. Over the next 3 days, I made phone calls, lots of phone calls. First, I called my friend Jamal, who owned a moving company in Detroit. Jamal, I need everything in my house moved. Everything, and I need it done in 2 days. Everything? Lorraine, where are you going? Somewhere my son will never think to look for me. Can you do it? For you? Absolutely. I'll bring my best crew. Next, I called Pastor James at the church. Pastor, I need to talk to you about something. It's urgent. He came over that afternoon, and I told him everything. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Lorraine, I understand you're hurt, but are you sure about this? Pastor, I spent 40 years giving everything to my son. I worked myself to exhaustion. I sacrificed my health, my time, my dreams. And now he calls me selfish because I want to enjoy the retirement I earned? Yes, I'm sure. Pastor James nodded slowly. Then let me help you. The church has a property that might work for what you need. The next day, Wednesday, Jamal and his crew arrived. 5 big men with 2 moving trucks. They worked fast and careful. They took my furniture, my dishes, my clothes, my pictures, my curtains, my rugs, everything. They even took the light bulbs. Miss Evelyn helped me pack my personal things. Photos of my parents, my nursing school diploma, my grandmother's Bible, my mother's jewelry, the quilt my aunt made me. All the things that really mattered. By Thursday evening, my beautiful farmhouse was completely empty. Just bare walls and bare floors. I walked through the empty rooms one last time. My footsteps echoed. I felt sad, but I also felt something else. Something powerful. I felt free. I spent Thursday night at Evelyn's house. She made me dinner, and we talked about old times. She told me I was doing the right thing. Some people need to learn the hard way, she said. Your son is one of them. Friday morning came. I woke up early, got dressed in jeans and my favorite flannel shirt, and drove back to my empty farmhouse. I wanted to be there when Marcus arrived. I sat on the front steps and waited. The sun was warm, the birds were singing. My chickens wandered around the yard. I had given them to Evelyn the day before, but a few had come back home. Chickens are smart like that. At exactly noon, I heard cars coming up the long driveway. First came Marcus's SUV. Then came a van. Then came another car. 3 vehicles full of people who thought they were about to move into my home. I stood up and crossed my arms. Marcus got out of his SUV first. He was wearing expensive sunglasses and a polo shirt that probably cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a month. Destiny got out next, looking at the farmhouse like it was beneath her. Then came the others. Destiny's mother, a large woman with a sour expression. Her 2 sisters, both on their phones. Her brother and his wife, arguing about something. 3 kids running around screaming. They all looked at me. Then they looked at the house. Then they looked at me again. Hey, Mom, Marcus said, walking toward me with his arms out like he expected a hug. We made good time. Where should we? The house is empty, Marcus, I said calmly. He stopped walking. What? The house is empty. There's nothing inside. No furniture, no dishes, no beds, nothing. Destiny pushed past him. "What are you talking about?" She ran up the porch steps and threw open the front door. I heard her gasp. Marcus followed her inside. Then came Destiny's mother, then the others. I stayed outside and listened to their voices echoing through the empty house. "Where's all the furniture? There's nothing here. Marcus, what is this?" "I don't understand." Marcus came back outside. His face was red. "Mom, what did you do? Where is everything?" I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I had sacrificed everything for, and I saw a stranger. "I moved out," I said simply. "You what?" "I moved out. I took all my belongings and I left." "You can't do that. We're supposed to stay here." "You were supposed to stay where?" I asked, my voice getting harder. "In my house? The house I bought with my retirement money? The house you told me to leave if I didn't like your plans?" Destiny came storming out. "This is insane. We drove all this way. My family is here. We need this place." "No," I said firmly. "You wanted this place. There's a difference." Marcus grabbed my arm, not hard, but enough to make me pull away. "Mom, this isn't funny. Where did you move everything? When are you bringing it back?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Never." The word hung in the air between us. "I'm not bringing anything back, Marcus. This house is empty, and it's going to stay empty. You wanted it so badly, you can have it. Enjoy your empty house with your 11 people. I hope you brought sleeping bags." "You're crazy," Destiny screamed. "You're a crazy old woman." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm just a woman who's tired of being taken advantage of by her own son." Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his face went pale. "It's the property management company," he said. "Mom, what did you do?" I smiled, a real smile this time. "Answer it." He did. I watched as he listened, watched as his expression went from confusion to shock to horror. "What do you mean the property is being sold?" he said into the phone. "Sold to who?" I turned and started walking toward Evelyn's truck, which was parked at the end of the driveway. She had come to pick me up, just like we planned. "Mom!" Marcus shouted behind me. "Mom, come back here. You can't just leave." But I could, and I did. As Evelyn drove me away, I looked in the side mirror. I could see Marcus standing in the middle of my empty farmhouse yard, surrounded by his wife's confused family, holding his phone and staring after me. I had spent 40 years giving him everything. Now it was time for him to learn that everything has a price. And the lesson was just beginning, because what Marcus didn't know yet was that the property management company hadn't called about the house being sold to someone else. They called because I had just donated my farm to the church. And Pastor James had some very specific plans for what to do with people who tried to take advantage of it. Evelyn drove me to a small cottage on the church property, about 15 miles from my farm. It sat at the edge of a peaceful lake surrounded by pine trees. Pastor James had told me I could stay there as long as I needed. When we pulled up, I saw that Jamal had already delivered my furniture. Everything was there, arranged neatly in the cozy 2-bedroom cottage. My couch, my kitchen table, my bed, my pictures on the walls. It looked like home. "This is perfect," I said. Tears filling my eyes. Evelyn hugged me. "You did the right thing, Lorraine. That boy needed to learn." After Evelyn left, I made myself a cup of tea, and sat on the small porch overlooking the lake. My phone had been ringing non-stop. 32 missed calls from Marcus, 15 from Destiny. Text messages filled my screen. Mom, please call me back. This isn't funny anymore. Mom, we need to talk. You're being ridiculous. Destiny's family is upset. Mom, call me now. I turned my phone off and watched the sun set over the water. For the first time in 3 days, I felt peace, but I knew this was far from over. The next morning, Saturday, Pastor James came to visit. He brought fresh muffins from Sister Patricia at the church. How are you feeling? He asked, sitting across from me at my kitchen table. Honestly, I feel guilty, but also relieved. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Lorraine, I need to tell you what happened after you left yesterday. I leaned forward. What happened? Your son and his guests tried to stay in the empty house last night. They had sleeping bags and some supplies. But around midnight, Sheriff Thompson got a call about trespassers on church property. My eyes went wide. You called the police? I didn't have to. Your neighbor, Miss Evelyn, saw lights on in the house and called it in. The sheriff explained to your son that as of yesterday at 3 p.m., that property legally belongs to Grace Community Church. They were trespassing. What did Marcus say? Pastor James shook his head. He got very upset, started yelling about how his mother owned that property. Sheriff Thompson showed him the deed transfer. It's all legal and binding. You signed everything over to the church Thursday afternoon. I remembered sitting in the lawyer's office with Pastor James, signing paper after paper. It had felt surreal, giving away the dream I had worked so hard for. But I knew it was necessary. Where did they go? I asked. I'm not sure, but Lorraine, there's something else. Your son is planning to fight this. He called a lawyer this morning. My stomach dropped. Can he do anything? Can he reverse the donation? No, the property is ours now, but he might try to claim you weren't of sound mind when you made the donation. He might try to argue that someone pressured you or tricked you. I felt anger rising in my chest. So even now, even after everything, he's trying to take from me. Pastor James reached across the table and took my hand. The church will support you, Lorraine. We have our own lawyers. This donation was legitimate and legal. Your son won't win, but it might get ugly before it gets better. He was right. That afternoon, I turned my phone back on. The messages had multiplied, but now they weren't just from Marcus and Destiny. They were from people I hadn't heard from in years. Marcus's wife's mother had sent me a long message, calling me selfish and cruel. Destiny's sisters had posted about me on social media, calling me a bitter old woman who hates her own family. Someone had shared my old Facebook profile picture with nasty comments underneath. But there were other messages too. Messages from people at my old church in Detroit. Messages from former coworkers. Messages from old friends. Lorraine, I heard what happened. I'm so proud of you. Girl, you did what needed to be done. Some kids need to learn the hard way. I went through something similar with my daughter. Stay strong. My friend Keisha from nursing school called me. Lorraine Mitchell, I just heard about what your son did. Are you okay? I started crying, not sad tears, relief tears. I'm okay, Keisha. I really am. Good, because I'm telling you right now, you did nothing wrong. That boy has lost his mind if he thinks he can talk to his mother like that. And his wife? Don't even get me started on her. We talked for an hour. Keisha reminded me of who I was. A strong woman, a survivor, someone who had worked too hard to let anyone, even her own son, take advantage of her. On Sunday, I went to church at Grace Community. I was nervous. I thought people might judge me for what I had done. Instead, I was surrounded by love. Sister Patricia hugged me tight. "Baby, we heard what happened. You are welcome here." Brother Malcolm, who was 80 years old and had fought in Vietnam, shook my hand firmly. "You showed that boy what consequences look like. Respect." During the service, Pastor James didn't mention me by name, but his sermon was about boundaries and respecting your parents. About how loving someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over you. After church, as I was walking to my car, I saw Marcus's SUV pull into the parking lot. My heart started pounding. He got out of the car, and Destiny got out with him. They looked tired, angry, desperate. "Mom!" Marcus called out, walking toward me fast. Several church members moved closer to me, creating a protective circle. Brother Malcolm stepped forward. "Young man, this is church property. You need to calm down." "I need to talk to my mother," Marcus said, his voice tight. "Then talk," I said, finding my courage. "But talk respectfully, or this conversation is over before it starts." Marcus looked around at all the people watching. He took a deep breath. "Mom, please, we need to fix this. The farm belongs to the church now," I said firmly. "There's nothing to fix." "You weren't thinking clearly," Destiny jumped in. "You were upset and you made a rash decision." "We can undo this. I was thinking more clearly than I have in years," I said, my voice getting stronger. "You both came to my home and disrespected me. Marcus, you told me to leave my own house. You called me selfish after I spent 40 years sacrificing for you. You threatened me, and you thought there would be no consequences?" "Mom, I was just trying to help Destiny's family. By throwing your own mother out, that's help?" Destiny stepped forward, and her face was ugly with anger. "You know what? You are selfish. You're a bitter, lonely old woman who can't stand to see other people happy. You bought that farm just to lord it over us, to make us feel bad about—" "Destiny, that's enough." Pastor James's voice cut through the parking lot. He had come out of the church and was walking toward us. "You need to leave. Now." "This is between me and my mother-in-law," Destiny snapped. "No, this is happening on church property, which makes it my business. You are not welcome here. Either leave peacefully, or I'll call Sheriff Thompson again." Marcus's face went red. "Mom, you can't let them do this. I'm your son. Don't I mean anything to you?" That broke my heart, because of course he meant something to me. He meant everything, but that was exactly why this hurt so much. "Marcus," I said, my voice shaking, "do you remember when you were 7 years old and you wanted that bicycle, the red one with the black stripes?" He looked confused. "What does that have to do with—" "Do you remember? I worked triple shifts for 2 months to buy you that bike. I was so tired I fell asleep standing up at the nurse's station, but I got you that bike. Do you remember what you said when I gave it to you?" Marcus's face softened a little. "I said you were the best mom in the world." "That's right. And do you remember when you were 17 and you crashed your car? You called me crying, scared of what your dad would say. I covered for you. I paid for the repairs out of my savings. I protected you." "Mom, and when you went to college, I worked overtime every week to make sure you didn't have to take out loans. You graduated debt-free because I made sure of it. And when your father died, who helped you plan the funeral? Who held you while you cried? Who made sure you were okay? Tears were running down my face now. Me, I did all of that. I sacrificed my health, my time, my money, my dreams, everything for you. Because you're my son and I love you. And the one time I asked for something for myself, you called me selfish. Marcus's eyes were filling with tears too. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what the worst part is? You didn't even see what you were doing. You thought you had a right to my home. You thought I owed you. You thought 40 years of sacrifice meant I would keep giving forever, no matter how you treated me. I made a mistake, Marcus said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry. Please, let's fix this. I looked at my son, my only child, and I saw a man who needed to learn one of life's hardest lessons. The farm is gone, Marcus. It belongs to the church now. That part is done, but you and me, we can fix that when you're ready to really understand what you did. When you're ready to respect me as a person, not just as someone who gives you things. When you're ready to see me as your mother who deserves dignity and peace. I do see that. Mom, please. No, you don't. Not yet. But maybe someday you will. I turned and walked to my car. Marcus called after me, but I kept walking. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw Marcus standing in the parking lot, Destiny pulling on his arm, and the church members watching silently. The next few days were quiet. I spent them at the cottage, reading, praying, and starting to heal. Miss Evelyn visited every day. She would bring me food, and we would sit by the lake and talk. How are you really doing? She asked on Wednesday. I miss him, I admitted. I miss my son, but I don't miss who he became. Give it time. Either he'll learn and grow, or he'll stay the same. Either way, you did what you had to do. That evening, Pastor James called me. Lorraine, I need you to come to the church tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. There's been a development. What kind of development? It's better if I explain in person, but bring any important documents you have, deed papers, bank statements, anything related to the farm purchase. My stomach churned with anxiety. Pastor, what's going on? Marcus hired a lawyer. They're challenging the donation. They're claiming you were coerced and that the church took advantage of an elderly woman in distress. I felt like I had been slapped. Elderly woman in distress? I'm 62 years old and completely capable of making my own decisions. I know that, but they're going to try to paint it differently. Our lawyer needs to meet with you. We need to be prepared. The next morning, I walked into the church conference room to find Pastor James sitting with a woman I had never seen before. She was in her mid-40s, wore a sharp navy suit, and had her hair pulled back in a neat bun. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm attorney Simone Crawford, she said, standing to shake my hand. I represent Grace Community Church, and I'm here to make sure your wishes are protected. We sat down, and Attorney Crawford laid out several folders on the table. Let me be direct with you, Mrs. Mitchell. Your son's lawyer is named Richard Pemberton. He's known for aggressive tactics in family disputes. He's going to argue that you were emotionally distressed when you donated the property and that Pastor James pressured you into making a decision you wouldn't normally make. That's not true, I said. Feeling insulted, I made this decision with a clear mind. I believe you, but we need to prove it. Can you walk me through the timeline? When did you decide to donate the property? I explained everything. The phone call from Marcus on Tuesday, the 3 days of planning, the deliberate, careful steps I took, the conversations with Evelyn, with Jamal, with Pastor James. Attorney Crawford took notes. Good. This shows premeditation and clear thinking. You didn't make a rash decision in the heat of the moment. You planned carefully. Exactly, I said. Now here's what's going to happen. Marcus's lawyer has filed a petition to reverse the donation. We have a hearing scheduled for next Tuesday. You'll need to testify about your state of mind and your reasons for the donation. My hands started shaking. I have to go to court? Yes. And Mrs. Mitchell, I need to warn you, it's going to be difficult. Your son will be there. His lawyer will try to make you look confused or vindictive. They'll bring up your age, your recent retirement, possibly try to suggest depression or cognitive decline. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. How did it come to this? How did I end up having to defend myself in court against my own son? Pastor James reached over and squeezed my hand. Because sometimes doing the right thing costs us something. But you're not alone. We're going to fight this together. Over the next few days, Attorney Crawford prepared me for court. She asked me hard questions, made me practice my testimony, helped me gather evidence of my sound mind, recent medical records, bank statements showing careful financial planning, letters from friends and former co-workers attesting to my character. On Monday night, the night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my porch at the cottage, looking at the lake, and I prayed. I prayed for strength, for wisdom, for peace. And I prayed for Marcus, that somehow, through all of this pain, he would find his way back to being the son I raised him to be. Tuesday morning came too fast. I put on my best dress, a burgundy one with a matching jacket. I wanted to look dignified, strong, capable. Keisha drove up from Detroit to be with me. "You're not going through this alone," she said firmly. At 9:30, we walked into the county courthouse. It was an old building with marble floors and high ceilings. My footsteps echoed as we walked down the hallway to courtroom B. Attorney Crawford met me outside. "Are you ready?" "No," I said honestly, "but I'm here." I walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected. There were rows of benches, a judge's desk at the front, and tables for the lawyers. And there, sitting at the other table, was Marcus. He looked terrible. His face was drawn and tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, he looked away quickly. Next to him sat his lawyer, Richard Pemberton, a white man in an expensive suit with silver hair and cold eyes. Behind Marcus in the gallery sat Destiny, her mother, her sisters, all of them looking at me with hatred. But behind me, in my row, sat Keisha, Miss Evelyn, Pastor James, Sister Patricia, Brother Malcolm, and at least a dozen other people from Grace Community Church. My people, my real family. "All rise," the bailiff called out. The Honorable Judge Veronica Hayes presiding. A black woman in her 60s walked in and took her seat at the bench. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense expression. "Please be seated," Judge Hayes said. We're here today regarding the case of Marcus Mitchell versus Grace Community Church, challenging the donation of property at 1547 County Road 42. Mr. Pemberton, you may begin. Marcus's lawyer stood up. He was smooth and confident. Your Honor, this case is about a vulnerable elderly woman who was taken advantage of during a moment of extreme emotional distress. Mrs. Lorraine Mitchell, after a disagreement with her son, impulsively donated her property, worth approximately $250,000, to a church, effectively making herself homeless and destitute. We believe this donation was made under duress and should be reversed. I felt rage building in my chest. Vulnerable, destitute, homeless. Attorney Crawford stood up. Your Honor, if I may, Mrs. Mitchell is a retired registered nurse with over 40 years of experience. She is mentally sharp, financially stable, and made this donation with full understanding and clear intent. This is not a case of elder abuse or coercion. This is a case of a son who is upset that his mother said no to his unreasonable demands. Judge Hayes looked between both lawyers. I'll hear testimony and make my determination. Mr. Pemberton, call your first witness. Your Honor, I call Marcus Mitchell to the stand. My son stood up and walked to the witness stand. He looked nervous. The bailiff swore him in. Mr. Mitchell, Pemberton began, please tell the court about your relationship with your mother. Marcus cleared his throat. My mother and I have always been close. She raised me by herself after my dad died. She worked hard to give me a good life. I love her very much. And what happened that led to this situation? My wife's family was going through a housing crisis. They had nowhere to go. I thought my mother, who has a large farm with plenty of space, could help them out temporarily. But when I called her, she got very upset. She started acting strange, paranoid even. She accused me of trying to take her house from her, which wasn't true at all. I wanted to scream. That was not what happened. And then what did she do? Pemberton asked. She moved everything out of the house in secret. She didn't tell me what she was doing, and when we arrived, she had given the entire property away to a church. Your Honor, this is not normal behavior. My mother was clearly not thinking straight. She needs help, not legal validation of a decision she made in anger. Pemberton sat down, looking satisfied. Now it was Attorney Crawford's turn. She stood up slowly and walked toward the witness stand. Mr. Mitchell, you said you called your mother to ask if your wife's family could stay at her farm temporarily. Is that correct? Yes. How many people were you asking to move in? Well, there were 9 of them, plus me and my wife, so 11 total. 11 people in your mother's home. For how long? A few months, maybe longer, we weren't sure. Attorney Crawford nodded. And did you ask your mother if this was okay with her? Yes, I called her to discuss it. To discuss it, or to tell her what was going to happen. Marcus shifted in his seat. To discuss it, Attorney Crawford pulled out a paper. Mr. Mitchell, your mother took notes during that phone call. Would you like me to read them to the court? Marcus's face went pale. Your Honor, I'd like to enter this into evidence. These are handwritten notes taken by Mrs. Mitchell during the conversation with her son on Tuesday, Juneteenth. She began reading. Marcus called, said Destiny's family needs to stay at farm. I said no, I need my peace. He said, Mom, you're being selfish. I tried to explain. He said, we're coming Friday. Have the master bedroom ready. If you don't like it, go back to the city. He hung up. The courtroom was silent. Mr. Mitchell, Attorney Crawford said quietly, does that sound like a discussion to you? Marcus looked at his lawyer, then at the floor. I was frustrated. I didn't mean it to come out that way. You told your mother to give up her master bedroom in her own house and move to the guest room. Is that correct? Yes, but you told her that if she didn't like it, she could leave her own home and go back to the city. Is that correct? I was angry. I shouldn't have said that. And when your mother responded to your demands by moving out and donating her property, you called her paranoid and accused her of not thinking straight. Mr. Mitchell, isn't it possible that your mother was thinking very clearly? That she simply refused to be bullied by her own son? Objection, Pemberton called out. Argumentative. Sustained, Judge Hayes said. Rephrase, counselor. Attorney Crawford looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Mitchell, have you apologized to your mother for how you spoke to her? Marcus looked at me for the first time. His eyes were full of tears. Not really, not the way I should have. No further questions. Judge Hayes looked at me. I'd like to hear from Mrs. Mitchell herself. Mrs. Mitchell, please take the stand. This was it, the moment everything would be decided. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked to the witness stand. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Judge Hayes looked at me with those kind but firm eyes. Mrs. Mitchell, I'd like you to tell me, in your own words, why you donated your property to Grace Community Church. I took a deep breath. I looked at Marcus, at Destiny, at all the people who thought I was a bitter old woman. And then I told my truth. Your Honor, I donated my property because I needed to teach my son a lesson about respect, boundaries, and consequences. I took a deep breath and looked directly at Judge Hayes. Your Honor, I donated my property because I needed to teach my son a lesson about respect, boundaries, and consequences. For 40 years, I gave Marcus everything. I worked double shifts and triple shifts as a nurse. I missed holidays. I missed birthdays. I sacrificed my health, my time, and my dreams so he could have a better life. And I did it gladly because that's what mothers do. We sacrifice for our children. My voice grew stronger as I continued. But somewhere along the way, my son learned the wrong lesson. He learned that I would always say yes, that I would always give, that there were no limits to what he could ask of me. When I finally retired after 40 years of hard work, I bought that farm with my own money. Money I had saved penny by penny. I wasn't rich, I didn't have a fortune, but I had enough to buy 30 acres of peace. I looked at Marcus. He was crying now, his head in his hands. I moved to that farm to rest, to heal, to finally live the life I had dreamed about while I was working those night shifts and eating leftovers and driving a car that barely ran. I wanted to wake up to birds singing. I wanted to grow tomatoes. I wanted peace, that's all, just peace. Judge Hayes nodded, listening intently. When Marcus called me and demanded that I house 11 people in my home, I tried to say no gently. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. He called me selfish, Your Honor. After 40 years of sacrifice, my son called me selfish, because I wanted to enjoy my retirement. And then he told me that if I didn't like his plans, I could leave my own house and go back to the city. I paused, wiping tears from my face. I didn't donate that farm, 'cause I was confused or angry or not thinking straight. I donated it because I needed Marcus to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people, especially your own mother, like they exist only to serve you. I donated it because sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes love means teaching a hard lesson. Mrs. Mitchell, Judge Hayes said gently, are you currently homeless, as Mr. Pemberton suggested? No, Your Honor. The church has provided me with a cottage on their property. I have all my belongings. I'm comfortable and safe. I'm not destitute. I have my retirement savings. I'm fine. And do you regret your decision to donate the property? I thought about this carefully. Did I regret it? Did I regret giving up the farm I had worked so hard for? I regret that it was necessary, I said finally. I regret that my son's behavior forced me to make such a drastic choice. But no, Your Honor, I don't regret the decision itself, because for the first time in 40 years, my son is learning that I am a person with my own needs and boundaries, and that's a lesson worth more than any property. Attorney Crawford stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to call one more witness, Miss Evelyn Johnson. Miss Evelyn made her way to the stand. She was 75 years old, but walked with dignity and strength. Miss Johnson, Attorney Crawford said, you're Mrs. Mitchell's neighbor, correct? Yes, ma'am. My farm is right next to hers, was next to hers. Did you witness Mrs. Mitchell's behavior in the days leading up to the donation? I sure did. Lorraine came to my house the day after her son called. She was upset, yes, but she wasn't confused or irrational. She was hurt. There's a difference. Can you explain? Lorraine sat at my kitchen table and told me exactly what had happened. She spoke clearly. She made perfect sense. She said, Evelyn, I need to teach my son a lesson. Then she laid out her plan, step by step. She wasn't acting crazy. She was acting like a woman who had been pushed too far and was finally pushing back. What happened over the next few days? She made phone calls. She organized the move. She signed legal papers. Everything was deliberate and thought through. Your Honor, I've known confused elderly people. My own mother had dementia before she passed. Lorraine wasn't anything like that. She was sharp as a tack, still is. Pemberton tried to cross-examine Miss Evelyn, but she didn't budge. She looked him dead in the eye and said, Young man, I've lived through Jim Crow, raised 6 children by myself after my husband died, and survived 2 hurricanes. You're not going to rattle me. Some people in the gallery laughed. Even Judge Hayes smiled a little. After Miss Evelyn stepped down, Judge Hayes looked at both lawyers. I'll take a 15-minute recess to review the evidence, and then I'll give my ruling. Those 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. I sat in the hallway with Keisha and Miss Evelyn and Pastor James. They prayed with me. They held my hands. They reminded me that I had done nothing wrong. When we went back into the courtroom, Judge Hayes had a serious expression. I've reviewed all the testimony and evidence, she began. This is a complicated case because it involves family, but legally it's quite simple. Mrs. Mitchell is a 62-year-old woman with full mental capacity. She has no history of cognitive decline, no medical conditions that would impair her judgment, and no evidence of coercion or undue influence. She looked at Marcus. What I see here is a mother who set a boundary with her adult son, and the son is unhappy with that boundary. Mr. Mitchell, I understand you're upset. I understand you feel your mother made a rash decision, but the evidence shows that she made a careful, deliberate choice to donate her property. She had every legal right to do so. Judge Hayes picked up her gavel. The petition to reverse the donation is denied. The property remains with Grace Community Church. This case is dismissed. The sound of the gavel hitting the bench echoed through the courtroom. I felt Keisha squeeze my hand. I heard Sister Patricia whisper, "Thank you, Jesus." Across the aisle, Destiny let out an angry sound. Marcus just sat there, staring at the table. However, Judge Hayes continued, and everyone went quiet again. I want to say something to both of you. Mrs. Mitchell, you won this case. The law is on your side. But I hope you and your son can find a way to heal this relationship. Life is too short for this kind of pain. She looked at Marcus. And Mr. Mitchell, I hope you'll take this opportunity to reflect on how you treated your mother. The law can't force you to respect her, but I hope your conscience will. Court was adjourned. People surrounded me, hugging me, congratulating me, but all I could see was Marcus, sitting at that table, looking broken. Destiny was pulling on his arm, saying something angry. Her family was gathering their things, looking disgusted, but Marcus didn't move. Finally, Destiny stormed out with her family, and Marcus was alone. He stood up slowly and walked toward me. The church members around me tensed, protective, but I raised my hand. "It's okay," I said. "Let him through." Marcus stopped a few feet from me. His face was red and swollen from crying. "Mom," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "I'm so sorry." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "You were right. About everything. I was selfish. I was disrespectful. I treated you like you existed just to help me, just to give me things, and I never once asked what you needed, what you wanted, what you had sacrificed for me." Tears were streaming down his face. "I heard you testify today, and it hit me, really hit me. You worked 40 years for me. You gave up everything. And the one time you asked for something for yourself, I called you selfish. Mom, I'm so ashamed." I felt my own tears coming. "Marcus, no, please, let me finish. I don't deserve your forgiveness, I know that. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the son you deserved all along." He took a shaky breath. "I'm leaving Destiny." That surprised me. "What?" "I'm leaving her. I should have done it a long time ago. She's been poisoning me against you for years, always complaining about how you didn't do enough for us, how you should give us money, help us more, let us use your things." I let her words get into my head. I let her turn me into someone I'm not. "Marcus, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because this isn't just about Destiny. This is about me, about the man I became. I lost myself, Mom. I lost the values you taught me. Respect, gratitude, humility. I need to find those again." I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I saw the little boy who used to hug me after long shifts and tell me I was the best mom in the world. I saw the teenager who cried on my shoulder when his father died. I saw the man I had raised him to be, buried under years of entitlement and bad influences. "Oh, baby," I said, and I pulled him into a hug. He sobbed into my shoulder like a child. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "I know," I whispered. "I know you are." We stood there in that courtroom, holding each other, while my church family gave us space and time to heal. Finally, Marcus pulled back and wiped his face. Can I visit you at the cottage?" "Not yet," I said gently. "You need time to work on yourself, to figure out who you are without destiny's influence. And I need time to heal from the hurt you caused. But Marcus, I haven't given up on you. I never will. You're my son. I'll always love you." He nodded, understanding. "I'll work on myself, I promise. And when you're ready, when you think I've earned the right, I'll come visit." "I'd like that." Marcus left the courthouse that day with his head down, but his shoulders a little straighter. He had a long road ahead of him, but for the first time in years, he was walking it honestly. 3 months later, I was sitting on the porch of my cottage, watching the autumn leaves fall on the lake, when I heard a car pull up. It was Marcus, but he wasn't alone. He got out of the car and opened the back door. A little boy, maybe 3 years old, climbed out. Marcus held his hand as they walked toward me. "Mom," Marcus said nervously, "this is Isaiah. He's my mentee from the Big Brothers program at church in Detroit. I've been volunteering there since August. His mom said I could bring him to visit you today, if that's okay." I felt my heart swell. My son was volunteering. My son was mentoring a child. My son was becoming the man I had raised him to be. "Of course it's okay," I said, smiling. "Come here, Isaiah. Do you like cookies?" The little boy nodded shyly. "Well, I just baked some. Let's go inside and have some cookies and milk." As we walked into the cottage, Isaiah between us, Marcus caught my eye. Without words, I told him what he needed to know. I was proud of him, and we were going to be okay. Over the next year, things slowly healed. Marcus came to visit once a month, always respectful, always humble. He filed for divorce from Destiny, which was ugly and painful but necessary. He started going to therapy. He joined a men's group at his church. He kept volunteering with Big Brothers. And most importantly, he started listening. Really listening. When I talked, he heard me. When I said no to something, he respected it. When I needed space, he gave it. The farm stayed with Grace Community Church. Pastor James turned it into a retreat center for families in crisis. People who needed a place to heal, to rest, to find peace. It was being used exactly how I had always dreamed, as a place of refuge. Miss Evelyn and I became best friends. She taught me how to quilt. I taught her how to make my grandmother's peach cobbler. We sat on each other's porches and watched the seasons change. Keisha came to visit from Detroit every few months. She loved the cottage and the peace of the lake. She said I looked 10 years younger than I had before I retired. "That's what happens when you stop letting people drain you," she said wisely. One evening, about 18 months after the court case, I was sitting on my porch when Marcus called. "Mom, I have something to tell you." My heart jumped. "What is it?" "I met someone. Her name is Jasmine. She's a teacher. She's kind and patient, and she respects you. She wants to meet you, if you're comfortable with that." I smiled. "I'd love to meet her." "Really?" Really, bring her by this weekend. I'll make dinner. Mom? Yes, baby. Thank you for not giving up on me, for teaching me the lesson I needed to learn. It hurt at the time, but it saved me. You saved me. You saved yourself, Marcus. I just pointed you in the right direction. That weekend, Marcus brought Jasmine to meet me. She was a lovely woman with warm eyes and a genuine smile. She brought me flowers and helped me set the table. She asked me about my nursing career and actually listened to the answers. During dinner, I watched how she and Marcus interacted. There was respect there, partnership, real love, not the toxic kind that had existed with Destiny. After they left, I sat on my porch and cried happy tears. My son had found his way back, not to who he was, but to who he was meant to be. 2 years after I donated the farm, Grace Community Church held a special ceremony. They unveiled a plaque at the retreat center that read, "The Lorraine Mitchell Center for Family Restoration, donated in love, built in hope." Pastor James asked me to say a few words. I stood in front of the crowd, church members, families who had stayed at the retreat, Marcus and Jasmine, Miss Evelyn, Keisha, who drove up from Detroit, and I spoke from my heart. When I donated this property, I didn't know what would become of it. I only knew that I needed to make a stand. I needed to teach my son that love doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you. Love means boundaries. Love means consequences. Love means saying no when yes would hurt both of you. I looked at Marcus, who was holding Jasmine's hand and smiling at me with tears in his eyes. But love also means forgiveness. It means second chances. It means believing that people can grow and change. My son hurt me deeply, but he did the work to change. He faced his mistakes. He became the man I always knew he could be. I gestured to the retreat center behind me. This place has become something beautiful. Families come here when they're broken. They find peace here. They find healing. They learn how to love each other better. And that's what I hoped for when I made this donation. Not revenge, not punishment, but transformation. The crowd applauded. Several people were crying. After the ceremony, a young woman approached me. She had a baby in her arms and a toddler holding her hand. "Mrs. Mitchell, I wanted to thank you. My husband and I stayed here for a week last month. We were about to divorce, but this place gave us the space to breathe, to talk, to remember why we fell in love. We're going to make it now. We're going to be okay." I hugged her, careful not to squish the baby. "I'm so glad, sweetheart. That's what this place is for." As the sun set over the farm that I had given away, I realized something profound. In losing the farm, I had gained something far more valuable. I had gained my dignity back, my peace, my sense of self. And I had gained my son back too, not the entitled, selfish man he had become, but the good, kind, respectful man I had raised him to be. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is to let them face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes love looks like saying no. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. I learned that I could be kind without being a doormat. I could be generous without being used. I could be a loving mother without sacrificing my own well-being. At 64 years old, living in my cozy cottage by the lake, with a son who had learned to respect me and a community that had embraced me, I finally understood what it meant to be free. free from the burden of always saying yes, free from the fear of disappointing others, free from the belief that my worth was tied to what I could give. I was just Lorraine, a woman who had worked hard, loved deeply, and finally learned to love herself enough to set boundaries. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. On a crisp October morning, 3 years after the day I donated my farm, I woke up in my cottage and made myself coffee. I sat on my porch and watched the mist rise off the lake. My chickens, yes, I had gotten more chickens, clucked softly in their coop. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. "Morning, Mom. Isaiah's team won their football game yesterday. He wanted me to tell you, can we come by Sunday for dinner? Jasmine wants to learn how to make your peach cobbler." I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely, come around too. Love you, baby." "Love you too, Mom." I set my phone down and took a sip of my coffee. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I had spent 40 years giving everything away. Now I was learning the joy of receiving respect, receiving love, receiving peace. And it was the most beautiful thing I had ever experienced. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.